Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and I'm really excited today. Today really marks a brand new season for Franchise Marketing Radio and some very special guests I have with me. In fact, if you were paying attention to the intro, the guests I have with me are the founders of IDS, Steve Galligan and Joe Mohay. And I wanted to introduce them. Hey, guys, how are you today?
Doing well, Rob. Thanks for having us.
Excellent. You got it. You bet. So listen, we have a new direction for the show. And this, again, marks a special time. We've been on the air for a few years now, and we've interviewed dozens of very influential brands and great people from the franchise industry, but really want to take the show to in a new direction where we share even more about how to properly run a franchise, launch a franchise, manage a franchise from every angle. So we really want to go broader with our new season. And so I'm excited to say that IDS is partnering with us as a co-producer, co-host, and a sponsor for the show. And so I want to start with Steve and the founder and CEO of IDS and talk to you a little bit about, could you share a little bit about IDS and the reasons for you partnering up on Franchise Marketing Radio?
Absolutely, Rob. And once again, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. My partner and co-founder, Joe Mohay, and I started IDS a little over 10 years ago. So we're proud to say that we have been in business for 10 plus years. And what got us started with franchising is we saw a great opportunity for a space that really needed the advent of online and digital marketing. Like every industry and vertical, things had been done in a traditional fashion. But we all know that in the last several years, things have changed, and the traditional methods of bringing buyers and sellers together are no longer relevant. And franchising was an absolutely perfect opportunity because, as someone once said to me, when you pick up one client, you could pick up 100, 200, 300, or 400 clients. So we quickly got started with franchise development. And what really jazzed Joe and I up about this is that we love the idea of helping people start a new life, whether they're retiring or whether they're leaving a corporate job or whether they have an inheritance, and suddenly they have an opportunity to get a new beginning. So Joe and I really were excited about providing the marketing skills to the folks that needed to sell franchises, and that ultimately would enable people to get a new beginning. And we found the method and the means to do that through digital marketing, and that included building a new website. Maybe it was producing some great content for that website, maybe making blogs so that when the prospective buyer came to a website, they would have the information that would enable them to get further down in the franchise buying funnel so that they could come to the franchisor with intelligent questions that enabled them to make a smart decision on a very important chapter in their life. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a really important time when someone elects to buy a franchise. So, not only did we build the website, put good content on there, but obviously you have to deliver an audience, to that marketing avenue that we're creating. And that includes paid and organic, social and search. And we all know that Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, there's a whole variety of means that obviously have been a driving force in the information age. So, we made sure that we worked with best-in-class technology companies and then hired a team of digital marketing experts who would help us get to where we are. So fast forward to today, here we are. We're now in our 11th year. We've got, close to 70 franchisor brands that we work with, and we have surpassed 1,000 franchisees. So, Joe and I have really enjoyed, the last decade in franchising, and we couldn't be more excited about the next 10 years to come.
Yeah, and I would just expand on that. I mean, we came away with lots of learnings over those 10 years, no question about it. From our background in bringing buyers and sellers together, obviously there was a lot of experience on that end. But when it comes to franchising, and like Steve said, helping clients, franchise clients sell franchises, we had to get in the mindset of what a franchisee cares most about, right? Answering those questions, anticipating what questions, what care-abouts, what pain points these potential franchisees are thinking about, and arming your website with answers to that. We were big adopters of HubSpot, inbound marketing. This was 7-8 years ago, basically. And our clients, benefited from that. A lot of their competitors weren't adopting that methodology. And 10 years later, 70 plus brands, they still follow the playbook. What was great about that is that it helped us become a trusted resource, right? Working with clients one-to-one. So to answer your question, Rob, why, our vision of Franchise Marketing Radio is we want to be the trusted resource, not only for our existing clients, but for the franchise community. That's really the goal of us being, co-producers and sponsors of the show, is to be able to get that education out there to franchisors of all types.
Yeah, you said something there, Joe, that really resonated with me, just in terms of the show and the purpose of the show. I think that many times folks in our position forget we've been doing this 20 years, some of us since almost the beginning. And you forget that when you mentioned HubSpot and the idea of inbound marketing, much of that was happening then when they invented their software. But even today, I find myself needing to educate folks in the same way, right? And not to be aware of where HubSpot was in 2010 or 2015 and the methodologies that they embody. To not be aware of that would be a disadvantage for a brand, right? And that's really what this show is about. It's to make sure that we're speaking about the pivotal, impactful things, right? Whether they've been around or not been around. So if they're new, we want to make sure folks are aware of them. But if they've been around, but they need to be repeated, we'll make sure of that too. And that's a perfect example of understanding the idea of inbound and how to manage a system to grow your business. And I think that's, again, great point. So it's great to hear. But listen, Joe, I'll start with you. I have a follow-up question. So in that, right, how do you kind of know when you first engage with a franchise brand, what is it you kind of got to start with? Joe or Steve, where do you start when you figure, how do I turn this around, or how do we build a plan to help them grow? Where do you really start?
Yeah, I could take it from a high level on that, Rob, and then turn it over to Joe to, I'll talk about the strategy and Joe will talk about the tactics that we employ. So the first thing we look at is, how can we provide this franchisor with a solid return on the investment? So if they're going to invest their marketing dollars with us, we have to deliver franchise sales. People are going to buy a franchise from them. So really what we do is we look for the unique value proposition that this franchisor has. Sometimes it's an emerging brand. Sometimes it's maybe a mid-market. They're between 50 and 100. And then quite often, we're working with enterprise brands that are, in the hundreds. But no matter whether it's emerging, mid-market, or enterprise, it's the same thing. What we need to do is we need to find out what is that value proposition that we can spread to the buying community that's going to enable them to want to do business and purchase that franchise from them. And Joe, why don't you explain some of the tactics that we employ that enable people to employ the inbound marketing strategies that we use?
Yeah, for sure. So, what we try to do is get that current state, right? Where are they at today? Whether it's in their competitive landscape, online or offline, we want to know in conversation, what makes you unique? Why do people, decide to work with you? Things that as a business person and conversation we're having with them, how do we separate them from the pack, right? Obviously, with digital tools, we can see a lot, whether it's auditing their competitors' websites compared to them, how they stack up, where they might be missing out on opportunities to generate more leads. A lot of these tools really do give you a lot of insight. So what we try to do is really get that current state. We talk about what their goals are. What's the next 12 to 18 months look like? What are your sales goals? Those types of things, and work our way into how do we accomplish that together? It's not a one-sided relationship. We have to be two-way in communicating not only what we're doing on marketing and generating the leads, but what are those leads turning into in conversations, and how are we getting you further into the buyer's sales process so they can sell more franchises. And like we said in the beginning here, it's all about making the content and the site resonate with their ideal franchise buyer. We use that as not even so much a tagline, but that's just really the mission, is making you and your brand attract your ideal franchise buyer where they live online. That's kind of our way of articulating that to clients. And it's serving us every day. We stay true to franchise development. I know a lot of the folks that get interviewed through this show. It's fantastic because it's so aligned with who our clients are and a lot of those pain points and questions and care abouts that they deal with every day. We want to be able to, again, bring it to a platform like this and give a lot of that information to those buyers.
Yeah. And, I love the intro. I hear ROI. I heard Steve mention ROI. I think at the end of the day, right, starting with the end in mind. I heard a lot of that in what you were saying, but isn't that what it is, right? I mean, you got to know, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to bring in 25 units this year, or 10 or 100? And then, of course, it goes beyond that with the brand marketing side, of course, but you got to start with the end in mind, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the way things
yeah. I mean, and so how do you prioritize? If you have a pretty big plan, and maybe some of your brands that you've worked with haven't addressed certain things, right? And so you've got quite a bit to do. How do you know what's first, second, third? How do you know where to attack first? What's the most typically?
Yeah, I'll just take that a little further from the point I just made before. Obviously, we want to, get, again, that current state. When it comes to digital, like I said, we're looking at the full landscape. So let's maybe transition a little bit to the brand marketing side, which you just mentioned. We are working with more and more brands every day, because we've established ourselves in the franchise community as a premier agency, and franchisors trust us, right? Doing this for 10 years. So they give us opportunities to work with their individual locations more and more, the franchisees. So what we try to do is really get a kind of a viewpoint what the landscape looks like today for those franchisees. We use some tools to audit their GBP profiles, their location pages, really get a sense of where they are missing out on those audiences. And that's really the priority. It's if you set the foundation right for a franchise system, obviously that to me is the biggest priority, because you don't want to be reactive. You want to be a proactive brand and set the foundation right, so then you build off of that. So to summarize, I think that's the biggest thing we try to do, is current state of their business, how they stack up amongst competitors, and how do we level set that brand for all their locations.
And what we do, Rob, is to build on what Joe just said, is we perform an audit, and the audit really is it's almost like going to a doctor and finding out where you're healthy and where you could really work on other things. So maybe they have a slow load speed time on that website. Maybe they're not ranking for the right keywords. There's a whole variety of checkpoints that we go through. So when we give our feedback back to our clients and prospective clients, we don't like to talk about things that are wrong. We like to talk about potential opportunities. It's all fact-based. So when we take someone through it, it's very eye-opening to them. And I think part of the success that we've had, a huge part of it, is when we come to someone, we don't talk generically about, what you're doing or what you're not doing. We talk very specifically, and we give them concrete examples. And this isn't opinion. This isn't conjecture. It's not anecdotal. These are fact-based from many different sources that we pull online. And then we also do an analysis of their competitors. And sometimes we say, hey, This is where your competitor's really killing it. You're missing the mark there. And, we're not bashful. We're not afraid to emulate what other people in the same space are doing. So once we do that, the follow-up to that is we let them know, hey, here's what we've identified. And whether you use us or you do it yourself or you use someone else, these are the things that you have to do to fix it. And it is fact-based. And I think that's why we have the 90% retention rate of clients that we do, is because A, we show them where there's opportunity. And then if they avail our services, we follow through and we act upon the opportunities that we addressed with them. And it's a winning formula.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said was pretty amazing. The success stories, the number of clients you work with. I think, you hit on a couple of things I think are real important, is that you could do marketing really well, but if you don't start the way you guys talked about, it doesn't really matter, right? If you have the wrong keywords, the wrong assumptions about your ideal customer, or you're not starting with the end in mind, what is your real goals? You could have great execution, but not great results. And so that's so important. So that's great to hear. Did you have either you guys, either you could start, but do you have any real world stories that kind of embody why what you just said really can make an impact to a brand?
Yeah, I think I'll let Joe speak to that, because we've got a great story. Here's the great story. It's a healthcare company. And for several years, we helped them with their franchise development. And we killed it for them. We did a phenomenal job. So what did they do? They said, listen, if you can do the job that you did with franchise development, carry that over to our consumer side of the business, we think that, we could really be moving heaven and earth here, because we've got a problem with sort of disparate websites and everything needs to be tied together. So, Joe, I'll let you just talk about that a little bit more specifically, how we went from Fran Dev to the consumer side of things. We brought the whole thing together so that they had a complete integrated digital marketing program.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yeah, and it's not just that one exact example, the healthcare brand that we're referring to. A good number of our brands that we've done a lot of Fran Dev work over the years have start to hand us, those opportunities to uncover ways to help them in their digital marketing initiatives. So this particular one was real interesting because they came to us with a pretty significant problem. They have rogue franchisees. They have disparate websites, like Steve mentioned, where they're kind of a little bit of that branding is not really aligned. There's just a lot of, say, clutter, I would call it, out online. And so they tasked us to how do we bring it all together, make it a storyline look and feel, make sure that every franchisee is getting equal value in their marketing investment or their ad fund contribution. And that was something we just felt we knew how to do, working with, like we said in the beginning, working with the right technology partners, understanding their business really well, finding those gaps in their Google business profiles or the location pages, really set that roadmap up. And we did that for this particular brand. And it took quite some time to get all these websites, get inventory of all that and bring it into a really powerful platform to market all these franchisees really well. We did that over a course of, I'd say, maybe 18 months. And, gladly to say, basically now we're celebrating the victory, right? It was a process, but at the end of it all, the result, and we were looking at stats just this morning with the client in preparation for the national conference. Best time in the world. Like here, this is where we were at the beginning, and here we are 18 months later, and look at the result of all this great work that we worked with, not only on our in-house team, but corporate and some technology partners, bringing it all together. And it's a beautiful formula, like Steve said, and we are continuously offering that to more and more clients every day.
That's really compelling. I mean, while you're talking and really throughout the discussion here, I keep going back to this one thought in my head, and that is when you make the franchisees successful, you can sell franchises, right? And digital marketing is so important, and technology around sales and marketing is so important to enable the franchisee to be successful, right? And help the franchise brand do that. That indirectly and very profoundly helps grow the network. Right. So it's both sides, and it's important to address both sides so that the sales side can work better if the current franchisees are performing well. So that's amazing. So before we wrap the show up, I just wanted to kind of see if we could squeeze in one more question and get your input on something. So is there, there's a lot of talk today about technology, right? And constant evolution, advancements. You hear a lot of talk about AI. AI is the new buzzword, right? But is there anything that you guys just feel like, you know what, you want to share before we end the show, that just a really compelling technology or something you have found has helped your clients a lot? Is there anything you wanted to share? And I'll start with you, Steve.
You know what? I'm going to turn that right over to Joe, because we were just talking a little while ago. So he's going to talk about this grid that we have. And it is absolutely amazing, because what it does is it very graphically shows where you're performing really strong. And then it also illustrates where you have, well, I'll call them not weaknesses, I'll call them huge opportunities. And it's been real eye-opening. The reaction we get when we show this to prospective clients and even existing clients is amazing. So Joe, take it away and get into some of the details and the particulars about what Rob was asking.
Yeah, and I would, before I do that, I just also want to make sure, like the audience, the folks that we deal with every day and listening to the show, it's not about just technology, right? You've got to have that human element, right? You've got to have the strategies. You've got to have great client success or franchise success people, like we call them franchise success managers, that are working one-to-one with franchisees, because you get such great learnings. You understand what's important to them. Those learnings could be applied to obviously other franchise owners. So I want to just underscore the importance of not only having a great technology, which we do partner with some of the best in the world, but that human element and that relationship with franchisees is absolutely the job that we have in front of us every day, and we love it. But to speak to the technology that I think is really forward thinking is these geogrids that we pull for our franchise clients. What we can do is really get their Google Business Profile rankings in a grid format, right, where we can show where they are ranking well in close proximity to their location, where they're not ranking well, right? So further away from their location, there's going to be maybe, because these are colors on the grid. So reds means you're not being found really at all for anything meaningful. Yellows, it's like you're in the game. You're maybe within the first 10 positions. Greens means you're in top 1 through 3 and you own it, right? Our job is to show that current state. These red dots that appear, they tend to unnerve a few people, because they're like, whoa, what am I looking at here? Well, this is your current state for a number of your franchisees. And our job is, over the course of 3-6 months time frame that we set aside, how do we get more yellows? How do we get them to be more greens? And it's just a really great benchmark that we set with them. And every month, every couple months, we're reporting out those grids, those color changes. And to me, that's one of the best technologies that are out there right now to help franchise owners, because Google My Business, Google Business Profile, how you referred to today, it's their virtual doorway. And more brands, need that to have a lot of really impactful visibility for their franchisees. And that's what we try to do.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, so we're talking about analytics around Google and like local Google type of visibility. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. It's more for the local map, the 3-pack type snapshot that this particular technology does, and it's proving to be quite valuable for a number of franchise systems.
And I from what I've been studying and all my experience, Google for a local franchise, for a brand that is comprised of local businesses. How important is Google Local, right, or Google Maps? It's real important, isn't it?
It's the most important, I would say. Yeah. At a minimum, for any brick and mortar location, they have to have a very sound Google Business Profile, and not only that, but having that consistency of brand, is even more important, right? So that I would say is probably one of the biggest. Things that we get asked to do is audit their Google Business Profiles, score their profile is like, best practices to what they currently do, and really identify where they can get the lift that they need. And location pages is just that added layer to make sure those location pages are optimized to complement their Google Business Profile.
Rob, if you think about it, it's the front door to the digital marketing presence for so many businesses. when you look at, that Google business page, it's the time of operation, it's your website, it's reviews, there's so many things there, and there's so many avenues that you can go to from there. So what we try to do, and we've really honed it and we've found ways to improve it, is to just maximize the performance there, and then everything else falls into place.
That's and that's why I thought that. And so just in 5 short years, call it, or maybe it's been a little longer, but the Google presence there is almost as important as a local website. And again, that's the speed of change, and that's what we really want to talk about on today's show and on future episodes is really what are those important things, right? And just understanding if you're a multi-location business, that is a very important place to look. And so, guys, do you want to share a website that folks could go to learn more about IDS or anything more about what we were talking about today?
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously the ability to pull audits and do a scorecard like Steve mentioned there for franchisors, large to small. So obviously our website is idigitalstrategies.com. If they would like to submit for an audit, we have a specific area of our website called idsfranchisemarketing.com where they could send some information along in their form, and we will we'll have a consultation and provide them a great audit and scorecard of their franchise system.
That's tremendous. Anything else you want to leave with us, Steve? You have anything you want to leave with the audience before we wrap up?
No, I just want to leave and say, Rob, thank you so much for having us. I can't tell you how excited IDS is to be part of the franchise marketing radio that you've had for several years, and to be starting this new season with you. I can speak for Joe and myself and everyone on the IDS team that we're gung-ho, we're looking forward to it, and really excited to be part of this.
What a great recap. And I tell you what, thank you everybody for listening today to today's episode. That'll do it. Bye for now. We look forward to talking again.